What's going on, all you gamers? Today we're going to be going over a Harley Quinn build for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League that I think is absolutely amazing for taking on those mastery levels, as it gives you a lot of survivability, some crazy good AoE, and just helps you to get through the situations of some of these incursions later game. I found this to be a great all-around build, as it gave me enough survivability to tackle all of the content, as well as some additional ways to generate damage if I needed to take on some tougher foes. Harley is probably not the tankiest out of all the characters, but with this build I tried to give her the perfect amount of mitigation along with damage in order to get through all the content needed. So jumping over to her loadout, and the first one you're going to need will be the Master Pain Machine. This is going to be your submachine gun, and it's going to be a tier 3 pain set. Remember, with this weapon, when you successfully reload 3 times, it means you're going to form a wave of Venom Frenzy and you're going to craze all enemies within 20 meters. Perfect if you want to dish out a little bit of additional damage after. The modifiers for this I found best was going to be your crit hit chance, your shield harvest chance, and of course Traversal attack resource, which is perfect if you need a little bit of AoE going on or some extra iframes every once in a while. For our second weapon, and we're going to be using the stacked deck minigun. This one is absolutely ideal. We're not even going to be using it for its main amount of damage it can put out, but instead we're going to be using it for its rapid firing and the amazing perk that comes with this. First thing you're going to do, chuck on the modifiers, critical hit chance, shield harvest chance, and shield regeneration on critical hits. Then, like I said, the perk for this, when you're going to be aiming at enemies, every time you hit them with this weapon, they're going to take 15% more damage from all sources, up to a maximum of 750%. This weapon is absolutely ideal if you want to swap to it, hit a really tough enemy, for example one of those brutes, or just spray and pray some of the smaller enemies once you go up higher tier in those mastery levels, and then swap to something else, either one of your finishers like the Suicide Strike or the grenades that you're going to be able to spam very often, in order to generate a whole bunch of additional damage. Over to our MLE Weapon, and we're going to be going with the Two-Faced Persuader. For this, give yourself a bit more shield harvest, traversal attack resource generation, and of course shield regenerated on melee hit. This is going to give you some nice regeneration, going to give you some nice survivability, and this perk, every melee hit on a crazed enemy has a 50% chance to drop either a live grenade or grenade ammo at the enemy's feet. Also, we're going to get the villain synergy with this. Harvesting enemies now has a 100% chance of dropping grenade ammo, and also increases grenade damage by 100% for 20 seconds. Harley is an absolute beast with her grenades. Anytime you can enhance that, it's well worth doing it. And speaking of grenades, we're going to be going with the Chokehold. This is going to be our tier 1 for the Bane set, and I find that having a tier 1 alongside what we were using earlier with the melee works out absolutely amazing. For this one, you're going to want to put on explosion radius, extra shield regeneration for each enemy hit with a grenade, and 3% traversal attack resource for enemies hit with a grenade as well. Now you're going to have a whole bunch of traversal up as much as you want. You're also going to be getting shield back left, right and centre, and the grenades have got an even larger explosion, helping you to hit a lot more enemies, which makes things a bit hectic, but it's also a lot of fun to play as well. If you wanted to put it to Venom Frenzy, you could use that as well. Most times I just use this as a standard grenade. The tier 1 bonus is going to be each melee hit on an enemy has a 50% chance to craze it and 50% chance to drop grenade ammo. This stacks on top of the Two-Faced Persuader one, which means now we've got a way to generate grenades pretty much whenever we want, and of course you'll be doing a lot more extra damage whenever you're harvesting those foes as well. Over to the shield, by far the tankiest one in the game, you're going to be going with the Turtle Shell. This one has got nearly 4,000 capacity if you play your cards right, and with it you're going to chuck on a little bit of critical hit chance, damage reduction, and grab yourself some extra shield, enabling you to get a massive amount of shield, and with the overcharge you'll be boosted up to nearly 8,000 or even more depending on what you've got going on your skill tree. For this one, the perk, when you hit at least one enemy with an enhanced traversal attack, you're going to gain up to 90% damage reduction, and that's going to last for 5 seconds. The duration is increased by 2 seconds for each enemy killed. Maximum is going to be up to 15 seconds, giving you even more survivability. Over to the Traversal mod, and again we're going to be using the Turtle Steel Force Conduit. Probably the best traversal one in the game. This one is going to be able to give you some mitigation as well as some really nice damage. You're going to want to put on grenade pickup radius, damage to brute enemies, and shield regeneration from traversal attack kills. The perk on it pretty much means you get some nice mitigation if you're standing still, but more so than that, whenever you're moving, you're going to get a stacking buff of 50% extra damage every second you're in motion, all the way up to 500% if you're doing it for 10 seconds. This will just be going into your build as standard. You're going to be non-stop really with your movement in this game, so you're going to get a nice damage buff without you even really needing to do much. Over to another bit of the Bane set, and this time we're going to be using another piece of tier 3. For this one you're going to modify it for grenade damage to grunt enemies, damage reduction from brute enemies, and then damage while shields at 100%. Because you've got 2 pieces going on with this, it's also going to mean now you've got both of those bonuses, so you're going to deal 4% damage to an enemy for each 1% of their health that's missing. And another great one, critical hits on an enemy below 50% health trigger Bane's Fury. This increases damage by 50% and damage to crazed enemies by 50% for up to 1 minute. Each stack of Bane's Fury also adds a 5% chance to cause the enemy to explode on death and craze enemies within 10 meters. This can stack up to 15 times, giving you a massive 750% when it's boosted all the way. Lastly, and a top pick in pretty much any build, is going to be Jinx's Unlucky Coin. You're going to want to grab grenade pickup radius, 10% grenade drop chance, and damage while shields are at 100%. This one, as you probably know by now, will give you 750% increased damage to a certain affliction for 20 seconds, however it does rotate through all of them, so it'll only be up for 20 seconds, and then down for 60 seconds unfortunately. But when it does come around and your enemies are afflicted by the same one, you're going to see a massive boost in your damage. The great thing about this, even if they're not affected by that, you get 250% increased damage to afflicted enemies as standard. Now over to the skill tree, and I'm not going to go over this one too much, jot this down if you want. I'll just go over some of the ones that are really interesting that I think you should pick up. The first one is going to be Bigger Bang. Harley is amazing with grenades, best in the game by an absolute mile, so make sure you pick this up. You're going to get 1 extra grenade and 20% extra grenade explosion radius. Working hand in hand with this for a tier 4 is going to be Group Therapy. Now every time you hit more than 3 people with your grenade hits, which is almost always, you're going to be generating free combo. This stacks your combo meter ridiculously fast and it's the best way to generate it easy. Speaking of grenades, Cherry Bomb is another one that you should pick. This is going to mean you've got a 25% chance of a live grenade spawning whenever enemies are hit by a grenade. Another one I like to pick up will be for your tier 9 Clan Smackdown, as this really helps you out to generate your suicide strike, and you're going to have that single target damage up very often because you pick this one up alone, because enemy kills now generate 10% suicide strike results. For the tier 10 I've gone with Intensive Treatment. As you start going up the mastery ranks you realise these enemies hit ridiculously hard, so being able to mitigate some damage is definitely worth the investment. Once you get 40 combo above, this is going to give you 30% damage reduction, 100% shield capacity and 50% shield harvest chance. Absolutely amazing for keeping you alive in those tricky situations. For the melee tree, and an interesting one that I'd definitely like to pick up, is going to be Safety First for your tier 5. This is going to give you 50% shield overcharge and 25% shield pickup amount. For the tier 7 Powder Keg, another one that's going to keep you around. This one now means enemies hit by your grenades, which is going to be almost all of them. Even if they don't get nuked and completely fall over, they're now going to deal 25% less damage for 15 seconds. Absolutely amazing with the cluster bombs we've got going on, because we're often hitting multi-targets at once. Now we've got a lot of ways to mitigate that extra damage at higher levels. For our tier 9, and we're going to be using Tightrope Act. Now with every one additional combo you go above 30, you're going to have 5% chance to pretty much cheat death, instead of completely wiping or falling over. This means if you're maxed out at 50, you're going to have a 100% chance of this, and with our build you're pretty much always maxed out as long as you're constantly fighting those enemies. For the tier 10, and we're going to grab Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. This is now going to be nice and simple. It's going to give you 150% firearm damage and 100% grenade damage when you're topped out at that 50 plus combo. Over to our last tree, and one I like to pick up is going to be your tier 7 A Grapple a Day. This is just going to be nice and easy to put a little bit of extra damage when you're using your grapple attack traversals. And last but not least, for our tier 10, this is going to be down to your complete playstyle. I tend to have the ultimate refresher on just as another safety net, as now I'm going to get myself all the way back up with my health and I'm going to get 200% shield regenerate. Perfect in those auto moments if I think I'm going to fall down. Over to the squad skills, and I put these on almost all of my builds. Chuck on up close and personal ones of extra shield, an extra overcharge to your shield, and then you'll want to go straight across, grab yourself as much damage as possible. With this build it'll be all about your grenades, and then anything after that you want to put into, for example your traversal skills or your minigun or SMG, depending on which one you like to use most, in order to generate some extra damage. But yeah, hopefully that's helped a few of you guys and girls out. There'll be a lot more content on the way from me. As always, for all things gaming, take care. I'll see you on the next day.